Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpadarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyata Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate giram Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So it's been a while since we did 4.11. We'll just quickly read the shlokas and come to 4.12. So this chapter 4 is called Transcendental Knowledge. So transcendental knowledge means knowledge about the Supreme Lord. That is transcendental knowledge. So transcendental knowledge is not Jnana Yoga. So Jnana Yoga is a study of the scriptures, but here transcendental knowledge literally means knowledge about the Supreme Lord. So this chapter begins with Sri Krishna speaking. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind. And Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. The supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession. And the saintly kings understood it that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed the science to him? The personality of God had said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I myself appear millennium after millennium. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal board, O Arjuna. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. So we have covered up to 11 last time. So today we're going to pick up Shloka 12 and perhaps if we have time, Shloka 13. So let's recite Shloka 12. Kankshantah karmanam siddhim.
Kankshantah karmanam siddhim.
Yajanta iha devatah.
Yajant iha devata.
Brahmi loke.
Manushe loke
Siddhir bhavati karmaja.
Siddhir bhavati karmaja.
Kankshantah karmanam siddhim.
Kankshantah
siddhim
Yajanta iha devatah.
Yajanta
Iha devata.
Kshipram hi manushe loke.
Se loke.
Siddhir bhavati karmaja.
Siddhir bhavati karmaja.
Kankshantah karmanam siddhim.
Kankshantah karmanam siddhim.
Yajanta iha devatah.
Yajanta iha devata.
Kshipram hi manushe loke.
Manushe loke.
Siddhir bhavati karmaja.
Siddhir bhavati karmaja.
Word for word meaning and translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Kankshantah.
Kankshantah.
Desiring.
desiring
Karmanam. Of fruitive activities.
activities.
Siddhim.
Siddhim
Perfection.
perfection.
Yajante.
Yajante
They worship by sacrifices.
They worship by sacrifices.
Iha.
Iha
In the material world.
In the material world,
Devatah.
Devata,
The demigods.
the demigods,
Kshipram.
Kshipram,
Very quickly.
very quickly,
He. Certainly.
certainly,
Manushe.
Manushe,
Human society.
in human society,
Loke.
Loke,
Within this world.
within this world,
Siddhi.
Siddhi,
Success.
success,
Bhavati.
Bhavati,
Comes. Karmaja.
Karmaja,
From fruitive work.
fruitive work.
Translation. Men in this world
Men in this world
desire success
desire
success
in fruitive activities
in
fruitive
fruitive
activities,
activities,
and therefore
and
and
therefore
therefore
they worship the demigods.
they
they
worship
they
the
worship
demigods.
the demigods.
Quickly, of course,
Quickly, of
Quickly, of
course,
course,
men get results from fruitive work
men
men
get
get results
results
from
work
fruitive
from
work
fruitive work
in this world.
in
in
this
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 world.
world.
Purport. There is a great misconception about the gods or demigods of this material world. And men of less intelligence, although passing as great scholars, take these demigods to be various forms of the Supreme Lord. Actually, the demigods are not different forms of God, but they are God's different parts and parcels. God is one, and the parts and parcels are many. The Vedas say, Nityo Nityanam, God is one. Ishvara Parama Krishna, the Supreme God is one, Krishna. And the demigods are delegated with powers to manage this material world. These demigods are all living entities, Nityanam, with different grades of material power. They cannot be equal to the Supreme God, Narayana, Vishnu, or Krishna. Anyone who thinks that God and the demigods are on the same level is called an atheist or Pashandi. Even the great demigods like Brahma and Shiva cannot be compared to the Supreme Lord. In fact, the Lord is worshipped by demigods such as Brahma and Shiva. Shiva Virinchinutam. Yet, curiously enough, there are many human leaders who are worshipped by foolish men under the misunderstanding of anthropomorphism or zoomorphism. Anthropomorphism means you attribute human-like qualities onto non-humans, and zoomorphism means you attribute animal-like qualities to non-animals. Iha Devatah denotes a powerful man or demigod of this material world. But Narayana, Vishnu, or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, does not belong to this world. He is above or transcendental to material creation. Even Shripad Shankaracharya, the leader of the impersonalists, maintains that Narayana or Krishna is beyond this material creation. However, foolish people, Kritagnyana, worship the demigods because they want immediate results. They get the results, but do not know that results so obtained are temporary and are meant for less intelligent persons. The intelligent person is in Krishna consciousness, and he has no need to worship the paltry demigods for some immediate, temporary benefit. The demigods of this material world, as well as their worshippers, will vanish with the annihilation of this material world. So Srila Prabhupada is saying that when Mahapralaya happens, even the demigods have to give up their life. So they too will undergo destruction, not just those who worship them. So the demigods of this material world, as well as their worshippers, will vanish with the annihilation of this material world. The boons of the demigods are material and temporary. Both the material worlds and their inhabitants, including the demigods and their worshippers, are bubbles in the cosmic ocean. In this world, however, human society is mad after temporary things, such as the material opulence of possessing land, family, and enjoyable paraphernalia. To achieve such temporary things, people worship the demigods or powerful men in human society. If a man gets some ministership in the government by worshipping a political leader, he considers that he has achieved a great boon. All of them are therefore kowtowing. Kowtowing means subjugating or being submissive to the so-called leaders or big guns in order to achieve temporary boons. And they indeed achieve such things. Such foolish men are not interested in Krishna consciousness for the permanent solution to the hardships of material existence. They are all after sense enjoyment, and to get a little facility for sense enjoyment, they are attracted to worshipping empowered living entities known as demigods. This verse indicates that people are rarely interested in Krishna consciousness. They are mostly interested in material enjoyment, and therefore they worship some powerful living entity. Why is Krishna suddenly talking about demigods? Up to Shloka 11, he has spoken about his position. He's spoken about his devotees who know about his position. He's spoken about those who know his position. What is the result that they get? Why suddenly Krishna is talking about demigods? He's been talking about himself. He's been talking about this transcendental knowledge. He's been talking about the parampara system. Because the Lord knows that not everybody accepts him as the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Lord is now going to begin to speak about a little bit about demigod worship and how he has constructed this material universe, which you will see in the next shloka. So why doesn't everybody worship Krishna? If he is the person who's ultimately sanctioning all of our desires, why can't all of us simply worship Krishna and give up worship of demigods? And Krishna himself is giving the answer to that question. What is Krishna saying? Men in this world desire success in fruitive activities. Fruitive activities means karma. You want wealth, you want position, you want prestige, you want pride, you want all kinds of these things. And when you want these things, what is Krishna saying? Naturally, you are going to worship the demigods. You are not going to worship Krishna. And Krishna is explaining why such people worship the demigods to satisfy their material desires. Why? Because they get quick results. When you worship the demigods, Krishna is saying, they will give you what you want as soon as you give them what they want. It's a transaction. So if you have to go to a shopkeeper has a whole lot of things to sell. As long as you are willing to give him the money, he is willing to sell you what is on his shelf. He has no problem. So let's take a very simple example. Let us say there is a 10-year-old boy. He's got 50 rupees in his hand and he wants to purchase cigarette. And he goes to the shopkeeper and asks for a cigarette. Does the shopkeeper really care about that little boy and his future?
No.
No, Mataji.
Do you think that shopkeeper
No,
will sell him the cigarette?
Definitely he'll
Shopkeeper
sell.
sell the cigarette or not?
Yes, Mataji.
He will sell because
He will
after all, his
purchase.
main objective is money.
His
Yes.
objective is money. So let us say
Yes.
a boy wants to smoke cigarette. He goes to his father and he says, my dear father, I want to try smoking a cigarette. Can you give me 50 rupees? What do you think the father will do?
He'll beat.
Beat
Father
him,
will
yes.
not agree because father's objective is his son.
Father's objective is?
His son.
Make the child
Concern about
understand.
his son.
He's concerned about his son. He
To
does
make
not
the
want
child
his son.
understand that it is wrong.
It is wrong, yes. He'll make the child understand it is wrong. But the shopkeeper
is
doesn't care.
well.
So in this case, the shopkeeper is equivalent to God or demigod?
Demigod.
And the
Demigod.
father is equivalent to whom?
Krishna.
Krishna.
God.
So Lord Krishna himself is saying, when you want to violate my rules or you want to get things that are really ultimately not good for you, what will you end up doing? You will go to all these various shopkeepers. One shopkeeper for wealth, one shopkeeper for knowledge, one shopkeeper for a good wife, one shopkeeper for something else. Like this, there are 33 crore demigods. That's whom you're going to go to. Why? Because the shopkeepers don't care. As long as you give them what you have to offer them, they are ready to give you what they are supposed to give you. Whatever they are authorized to sell to you, they will sell to you. So Krishna is saying quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. So Krishna is beginning here by saying he knows that not everybody is going to worship him. He knows that not everybody really cares about their ultimate Supreme Father. The Lord knows that some of us are lost in materialism, and therefore, because we are interested in materialism, he has designated these demigods to give us what we want, although the Lord himself doesn't desire that for us. So here, Krishna is saying, quickly you're going to get the results. Kankshita, whatever you desire. Kshipram. The word Krishna is using is Kshipram, very quickly. Very quickly, you will get your desire satisfied. So if you want quick results, the best thing to do for you is to worship the demigods. But if you go to your divine father and you ask him for a cigarette, he will say, but then cigarette is going to take you away from me. Why would I give you and sanction that desire? So let us say you approach Lord Krishna directly for a material desire. Krishna will see whether it is in your best interest before he sanctions it or not. The demigods do not look at this kind of calculation. The only thing the demigod looks at is, if Krishna sanctions it, I will sell it to you. I have no problem. But if you approach Krishna directly, Krishna will think first. He will say, is this the right thing for you? I have a different plan for you. You may want something, but I have something better for you in the future. So Krishna may, for you, in your mind, he may be rejecting your prayer, but then he has something better in mind for you. So that's the difference between Krishna and the demigods. The demigods don't have any ownership of you. For Krishna, you are his child. So whereas if a child is approaching the father and asking for something that he knows is not good for you, he's not going to give it to you. But then, because we want quick results, because of our greed, because of our anxiety for material things, we prefer to worship the demigods. So demigod worship is simply like a contract. You worship them according to the Vedic scriptures, and they have to give you what you're worshipping for, provided that is sanctioned by the Lord. Ultimately, in this equation, Krishna has to sanction. Whether you're worshipping him directly or whether you're worshipping the demigods, it doesn't matter. The demigods do not work independently of Krishna. So what happens in this equation? Let us say you have a desire. That desire, even though you are approaching the demigods will wait to see if Krishna is checking your karmic account to see if you deserve it. If you deserve it, he sanctions it. The minute the Lord sanctions it, the demigods execute Krishna's instructions. So the demigod is obligated to give the results to you as long as you have done your part. And of course, the Lord sanctions it. The Lord is always in the picture. So similarly, you could take another example. A child likes sweets and wants chocolates, and the mother tries to convince the child that chocolate is going to spoil your teeth, and therefore I will make you something else that is sweet but is more nutritious for you. But what will happen if the child kicks and yells and screams and throws a temper tantrum? Let's say the mother has said no to chocolates, but the child gets upset, angry, and throws a temper tantrum. What will the mother do?
Some mothers, they will end up giving the chocolate, and some mothers, depending on, they will try to convince the child, deviate the attention. It depends on each mother.
And depends on the mother's mood also. Yes.
Yes.
Mother is tired, the mother will
True.
say, "Acha, chalo, please go ahead, take the chocolate." Yes. Depends on the mother's mood also. But if the child throws a temper tantrum and does not want to listen to the mother reluctantly may buy the chocolate for the child, but tell them next time no more. So similarly, when you ask for something that you really don't need, the Lord reluctantly sanctions it, even though he knows it's not good for you. But because he has given you a little bit of free will, he allows you to experiment with that little bit of free will. So you worship the demigods because you want your desires to be fulfilled quickly. But Krishna will always calculate based on your spiritual requirement, not on your material requirement. Unless you throw a temper tantrum and then Krishna reluctantly has to give you what you want. So Krishna's calculation is this going to take you away from me? Is this going to put more and more distance between you and me? That's the calculation that the Lord makes. The demigods don't care about this at all. You've done your duty, they will do their duty. Bas. It's simply a business relationship. So Krishna's calculation is this going to hurt your spiritual prospect, not your material prospect? So Krishna has a tendency to give things to you slowly, so that it does not increase our Maya. But if you want quick results and you're not interested in purification, then demigod worship is for you. So it is our short-sightedness that causes us to worship demigods. Or if it is not short-sightedness, it may be a family tradition that has simply carried on and you're carrying on that family tradition. So now that Krishna has said, men who are focused on material outcomes, they will worship the demigods because they will get quick results. In the next shloka, Krishna is going to talk about how he has constructed this in such a way, he's still worried about us. He's saying, "Oh, acha, if you're not interested in me, At least I'm going to construct this society, this material cosmos in such a way that you can gradually make progress until you realize that I am the Supreme Lord. So even then, Krishna as your Supreme Father does not give up on you. He never gives up on his children. He's always waiting to see when you're going to turn towards him and acknowledge him. So in this particular shloka, in Sloka 13, Krishna will talk about how he's constructed society to help you gradually elevate yourself until you become his devotee. Which means he is not forcing you. But he's created this design and system in such a way that gradually you will understand that what you're doing is harmful for you. And you will go in search of who is your Supreme Father. So for those people who want quick results, what is the setup that Krishna has created? Let's recite the shloka. Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam
Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam
gunakarma vibhagashah
Gunakarma vibhagashah
tasya kartaram apimam
tasya kartaram apimam
vidya kartaram avyayam
vidya kartaram avyayam
chaturvarnyam maya srishtam
chaturvarnyam shrishtam
gunakarma vibhagashah
gunakarma vibhagashah
tasya kartaram apimam
tasya kartaram apimam
vidya kartaram avyayam
vidya kartaram avyayam
chaturvarnyam maya srishtam
chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam
gunakarma vibhagashah
gunakarma vibhagashah
tasya kartaram apimam
tasya kartaram apimam
vidya kartaram avyayam.
vidya kartaram avyayam
Word for word meaning. Chatuvarnyam.
Chatuvarnyam,
Four divisions of human society.
the four divisions of human society.
Maya,
Maya,
by me.
By me.
Srishtam,
Srishtam,
created.
Created.
Guna,
Guna,
of quality.
of quality.
Karma,
Karma,
and work.
and work.
Vibhagashah,
Vibhagashah,
in terms of division.
in terms of division.
Tasya,
Tasya
of that.
Of that,
Kartaram,
Kartaram,
the father.
the father.
Api,
Api,
although.
although.
Mam,
Mam,
me. Vidhi,
Vidhi,
you may know.
you may know.
Akartaram,
Kartaram,
as the non-doer.
as the non-doer.
Avyayam,
Avyayam,
unchangeable.
unchangeable.
So in this very next shloka, Krishna is saying, according to the three modes of material nature and
According
the
to
work associated with them.
According to the three modes of
material nature and the work associated with them.
associated with them.
The four divisions of human society
The four
Divisions of human
human
society
are created by me.
are created by me.
And although I am the creator of the system,
And I am the creator of this system.
system.
you should know
You should know
that I am yet the non-doer,
that
that I
I am
am
yet
yet the
the
non-doer,
non-doer,
being unchangeable.
being
being
unchangeable.
being unchangeable.
We'll read the purport and then we will discuss the shloka. The Lord is the creator of everything. Everything is born of him. Everything is sustained by him. And everything after annihilation rests in him. He is therefore the creator of the 4 divisions of the social order, beginning with the intelligent class of men, technically called Brahmanas, due to their being situated in the mode of goodness. Next is the administrative class, technically called the Kshatriyas, due to their being situated in the mode of passion. The mercantile men, called the Vaishyas, are situated in the mixed modes of passion and ignorance. And the Kshudras, or laborer class, are situated in the ignorant mode of material nature. In spite of his creating the 4 divisions of human society, Lord Krishna does not belong to any of these divisions because he is not one of the conditioned souls, a section of whom form human society. So the Lord is telling us in the shloka that although he has created the 4 varnas and the 4 ashramas, the Lord does not fit into these 4 socio-economic orders. He transcends them because he is beyond material nature. So the Lord is not a Brahmana, the Lord is not a Kshatriya, not a Vaishya, not a Shudra. Although when he does make his appearance, he may come in a particular sect of society. So in spite of his creating the 4 divisions of human society, Lord Krishna does not belong to any of these divisions because he is not one of the conditioned souls, a section of whom form human society. Human society is similar to any other animal society. But to elevate men from the animal status, the above mentioned divisions are created by the Lord for the systematic development of Krishna consciousness. If you recall from the previous classes, Prabhupada has always said, we are all born Shudras. We have to qualify ourselves to become a Brahmana. One doesn't become a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya by birth. Krishna himself is using the words guna karma. It's as per your guna and as per your karma, you take a particular role in society. So here, Lord Krishna is saying he's created this setup so that all of us, if we are born as animals and we have to qualify ourselves to become a proper human being, then we have to move from the mode of ignorance to the mode of goodness. And then from the mode of goodness, we have to transcend to the mode of absolute goodness, which is called the Shuddha Sattva state. Which means, technically speaking, we are also an animal. We are an animal unless we are practicing Krishna consciousness. But the Lord is so kind that he doesn't expect you to become Krishna conscious the day that you're born. He knows you're going to go through certain twists and turns in your life before you accept him. Yet, the Lord has made it such that it is only for a human being who can graduate from the different modes into the Shuddha Sattva state. Until then, we are considered as animals, as per our Shastra. That's why Prabhupada is writing the sentence, human society is similar to any other animal society. But to elevate men from the animal status, the above mentioned divisions are created by the Lord for the systematic development of Krishna consciousness, which means you need to first come to the Sattva gun state, and then you should transcend even the Sattva gun state, because even the Sattva gun state attaches you to the material world. The tendency of a particular man toward work is determined by the modes of material nature which he has acquired. Such symptoms of life, according to the different modes of material nature, are described in the 18th chapter of this book, which is the last chapter. A person in Krishna consciousness, however, is above even the Brahmanas, which means if you are a devotee of the Supreme Lord, and if you're practicing Krishna consciousness on a daily basis, you are higher than a Brahmana. In our culture, Brahmana is considered to be a high status, not in Krishna's eyes. In Krishna's eyes, the highest status is when you become his devotee. What is that word called? So what is above Brahmanas? What is that class? If I could call it a class, it's not really a class. Above the Brahmana class is what?
Vaishnavas, Mataji.
Vaishnavas, yes. So the Vaishnavas are automatically considered to be Brahmanas. Although Brahmanas by quality are supposed to know about Brahman, that is why they are called Brahmanas. Brahmanas means they are already self-realized. They understand that they are spirit soul. That's the first qualification. Imagine you have to become a Brahmana, and to become a Brahman means you know that you are not this body. Although Brahmanas by quality are supposed to know about Brahman, the supreme absolute truth, most of them approach only the impersonal Brahman manifestation of Lord Krishna. But a man who transcends the limited knowledge of a Brahmana, Prabhupada is writing, but a man who transcends the limited knowledge of a Brahmana. So we may think Brahmanas are high status. But in Krishna's eyes, even if you're a Brahmana, your knowledge is limited. But a man who transcends the limited knowledge of a Brahmana and reaches the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, becomes a person in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, a Vaishnava. So a Vaishnava is considered to be topmost. They are beyond this varnashram. So actually, we are also observing varnashram in ISKCON, but the varnashram that we observe is called Devi varnashram. Devi varnashram means Krishna is in the center. So we may have qualities of a Brahmana, or we may have qualities of a Kshatriya, or a Vaishya, or a Shudra. It doesn't matter. If you're practicing Krishna consciousness, it does not matter. That is why in ISKCON, anybody can enter the temple. Anybody can enter the temple and worship the Lord. So Krishna expects you to become Krishna conscious. That's what he set this up, this Chaturvarnyam Maya Shrishtam, Gunakarma Vibhagashaha. He set it up that way so that you can gradually become a Brahmana and then transcend the Brahmana and become a Vaishnava. Krishna consciousness includes knowledge of all different plenary expansions of Krishna, namely Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, etc. So when you talk about Krishna, you're automatically talking about Narayana, Vishnu, and all of the Vishnu expansions. So Krishna means it includes all the Vishnu Tattva. It includes the Narayana form. It includes the direct expansions and plenary expansions of Lord Krishna. So when we chant the name Krishna, it automatically includes Narsimha, Rama, Varaha, all of them. And as Krishna is transcendental to this system of the 4 divisions of human society, a person in Krishna consciousness is also transcendental to all divisions of human society, whether we consider the divisions of community, nation, or species. So if you're practicing Krishna consciousness, you need not worry about whether you were born a Shudra or a Kshatriya or a Brahmana. It does not matter. In the eyes of the Lord, if you are his devotee and his servant, he does not look at this varna. It does not matter. These distinctions no longer matter when you have surrendered and accepted Krishna as the Supreme Lord. So for each of us who may have, some of us maybe, may have some misgivings, oh, I'm a Shudra, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. It does not count anymore. What counts in Krishna's eyes is that you have become his devotee. So in human society, you may be considered a Shudra or a low caste or a high caste. In the eyes of the Vaishnavas and in the eyes of the Lord, he is not looking at these distinctions. So Krishna is saying he set up this varnashram so that people will gradually elevate themselves until they become Krishna conscious. So it's a step-by-step system for those who are not ready. So what is guna and what is karma? Let's come back to the shloka. We have another 10 minutes left. So Krishna is saying, Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtam. This is my creation, he says. Guna karma vibhagashaha. Guna means character or qualities. Karma means competence or activities. So you are born with some natural inclinations to do certain things. You are born with some natural talent. And Krishna expects you to use that natural talent to develop your competence and become Krishna conscious. So Krishna does not expect everybody to become a Brahmana. It's not possible. What if you don't have the qualities? What if you don't have the guna of a Brahmana? Does that mean you cannot approach Krishna? Does that mean you cannot become a devotee of Krishna? No. Anybody can become a devotee of Krishna anytime they want. But if you're not interested to become a devotee of Krishna, then he's giving you a graduated process to reach there of your own free will. So guna could be seen as your natural characteristics that you're born with or qualities that you're born with. And karma means you become competent in certain activities. So if you're naturally physically endowed and you're interested in protection of nation, society, then it is natural for you to become a Kshatriya. You cannot become a Kshatriya by birth. Although that is possible if your parents exhibit and live those symptoms, it's not necessary. So Krishna is saying whatever guna you are born with and the karma that you're born with, use that to serve me. So guna karma vibhagashaha. So essentially this varnashram system provides us a social structure for spiritual advancement. The word ashram means it's a time-wise progression on the spiritual path, right? You start by being a student, then you have an opportunity to get married and lead a grahastha life. Then you take vanaprastha or sannyas. So it's a time-based progress on spiritual path. That is the ashram. Whereas the varna allows you to meet your basic economic needs. Hence, this varnashram is a socio-economic structure for spiritual advancement. So even the poorest of the poor can also become Krishna conscious. So individually, Krishna is saying we don't have to struggle on our own. The social structure itself allows you to become Krishna conscious. So let us say, for example, you want to become a doctor. Shouldn't there be a social structure in place to allow you to become a doctor? There has to be an education system. There has to be a certification program. There has to be a place where you can actually work and test out your skills and refine your skills. Even for material things, we have social structures in place. To become a doctor, there is a social structure. There is a social fabric in place. To become a sportsman, to become a teacher, there is a social structure in place. So similarly, this entire varnashram system is a socio-economic structure for us to advance spiritually. So Krishna is saying, I created this. I created the 4 varnas and I created the 4 ashrams. Within this construct, if people are intelligent, they will become Krishna conscious. So one does not need to individually struggle to become a doctor because the social structure is there that allows you, provided you have the guna and you have the character and the competence. Essentially, guna you can say is attitude and karma you can say is aptitude. What is your attitude and what is your aptitude? These 2 things determine how far you go in material life. So the same thing is set up by Krishna to also help us progress spiritually. So Krishna is saying, I know some people do not want to surrender to me right away. Actually, the vast majority of us do not want to accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord. Those of us who are devotees of Krishna are very rare, Krishna says. But at the same time, Krishna is so merciful that he's given us a system to get there eventually. He says, if you're not ready today, maybe eventually you will be ready. Maybe not in this life, maybe in 50 lives from now. Maybe 1 million lives from now, you may be ready to accept me as the Supreme Lord. So it is your guna and karma that determine what you take up as your life's commitment. Yes. So any questions? We will go a little deeper into this particular shloka next week. We'll talk a little bit more of...
I have a question, Mataji.
Mhm.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I have a question. May I ask?
Yes, please.
In the beginning, you had mentioned 2 words, right? Anthropomorphism and zoomorphism. So that meaning, difference between the 2 words were not clear for me.
Anthropomorphism means attributing human-like qualities to animals or plants. Worshipping animals and plants because you attribute human-like qualities to them. So zoomorphism is attributing animal-like qualities to those things that are not actually animals. So there are people who worship human beings as superhuman. There are people who worship animals for whatever reason. So like this, Prabhupada was using those 2 terms there. But do you think Krishna is deciding whether you're a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or Shudra? Is Krishna telling you today
No,
you become Brahmana?
Definitely no.
So
No,
who's
no,
making this
Mataji.
decision?
Who is?
Who is deciding whether you're Brahmana or Kshatriya or Vaishya or Shudra?
That depends on our devotion, I feel. Depends on our devotion.
Karma, Mataji.
Huh?
Guna karma.
Karma,
Karma
our
Karma
action,
decides.
action in
Yes.
Krishna consciousness.
Your gunas and your karma decide which varna you are occupying. So Krishna is not partial. Krishna has not decided you are a Brahmana. You have to qualify yourself to become a Brahmana. But in our
Yes,
culture,
Mataji.
it has been exploited. It is not a caste system. It is a class system. CLASS. Krishna has established a class system. You can graduate from lower class to higher class. But in India, it got converted into caste system by birth. Krishna never set up
Yes.
caste system at all. This class-based system is set up so that the 4 different varnas cooperate with each other, not that the Brahmanas exploit the Shudras or others. It is a system, it is a fair system that has been created by Krishna for collaboration, not for exploitation. So imagine you are going to school, okay? And let's say there are 30 students in the class.
Okay.
In the class, will everybody get the same score in a test?
No, Mataji.
So how come we don't fight for equality in the classroom? Why are we not yelling and screaming and saying, even I want 80%, why that person got 80%, I only got 50%? Do we fight?
No.
We accept that inequality exists, correct? Inequality exists in society. That's just the nature of society. But we artificially try to create equality. That is not going to work. So no amount of quota system here and there is actually going to help. So what will happen if the students strike and say all of us must get the average score of all the students? What will happen? Then the students with low IQ will become complacent. They will not even bother to work hard because they know somebody else's score is going to pull their score up. And the reverse will happen for those with very high IQ. They will become disgusted because they'll think there's no chance, there's no merit. Why work hard? So we must acknowledge, all of us are always, we ask this question, right? Why am I suffering? Do we not ask that question? How many of us have said, why is Krishna giving me all this trouble? Why only I am suffering like this?
Most of them, almost more than 90% of the people, Mataji, that why me question is something which is very common amongst us.
So this why me question needs to disappear after today's class because it has nothing to do with Krishna. It has nothing to do with Krishna. It has to do with your own past activities.
Yes.
So it's like saying every student has to get the same score in class, because if they don't get the same score, it's not fair. So that's what you and I are complaining. If something problematic happens in our life, we're saying, no, it is not fair, Krishna. Everybody should be equal. Everybody should be successful. Everybody should be wealthy. Everybody should be beautiful. Everybody should be intelligent. Everybody should have a phenomenal marriage. Everybody should be successful. It's not possible because guna and karma come into play. Your own guna and your own karma decides the trajectory of your life. It has nothing to do with
Yes,
it.
Mataji.
Krishna simply reciprocates. He's not powerful. So Krishna only reciprocates with your desire. If you desire him, it will benefit us. If we don't desire him, it is not going to benefit us. So we will go a little bit deeper into this particular shloka with a few more analogies in the next class. So we will stop here today. If there are any questions.
Thank you, Mataji.